Welcome back to Bike Matters, and today we're looking at a tasty little scooter from Kymco that isn't so little. It's actually a Maxi scooter. It's the DTX 360. It's a ton of fun. Let's talk about it. So we've got a 320cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine. It's fully Euro 5 compliant. It puts out 28 brake horsepower with 30 newton-meters of torque, peaking at 5,750 RPM. Now, 28 brake horsepower doesn't sound all that much, but this Maxi scooter is surprisingly agile and surprisingly nippy. I found whenever I was pulling away in traffic, I was able to leave the cars around me in the dust. We reached 70 miles per hour cruising speeds nice and swiftly, so dual carriageway riding is not a problem at all. It has an 85 mile per hour top speed. It's not going to go any faster than that, but how fast do you really need it to go on UK roads? But that does mean you're going to need at least an A2 license to ride one of these, or a full motorcycle license. So the visual styling, you can see here, it's definitely taken a lot of influence from adventure bikes. Kymco have said themselves that this is supposed to be a crossover between a traditional Maxi scooter and an adventure bike. That's definitely evident, especially in the screen here. This looks like it was ripped straight from an adventure bike. And the front end in general, as well as the high bars, very adventure bike-esque. But we do still have the large armchair seat of a Maxi scooter and a Maxi scooter proportions. Overall, I think it looks very high quality. It feels very high quality as well. We've got it here in orange. It's mostly blacked out. We've got this nice bright orange, which is good. The engine isn't the loudest engine in the world, so hopefully we'll get a bit of visibility from this orange. But if you don't like that, you can get it in a khaki green as well. I think both of them look pretty darn good. For the brakes, we've got single wavy discs on the front and the back. We've got a 260mm at the rear and a 280mm on the front. Now, they feel pretty good. I personally would like it to be a little bit more responsive. I like it so you can just squeeze the brakes a small amount and it'll immediately respond. With this, you need to crunch it down a little bit. But having said that, as soon as you do crunch it down, it stops very swiftly indeed, so there's no problem there. If you apply the front and rear at the same time, it stops very smoothly. We've got ABS. Everything feels pretty good, actually. The suspension setup is pretty basic. We haven't got much details on their website either when it comes to the tech spec. There's a telescopic fork on the front and a double swing on the rear. It feels fairly stiff actually, which means it's excellent on the road. It feels very nice. There's no dipping under heavy braking. It feels very nice and planted when you're cornering. Very pleased with that. But since this is a kind of Maxi scooter adventure crossover, I feel like the adventure elements are definitely more stylistic than practical. I wouldn't fancy taking this off-road at all. We're in Norfolk, as I say often in these reviews, so there's plenty of back roads with nasty lumps and bumps and potholes in them. And putting it through its paces on some of these back roads, when you do hit a bump, it's a bit of a clanger. You know, you really feel it shaking you. So without any modification, taking this off-road, I don't think you'll have a very good time. However, I think that's perfectly fine. Most of the top-selling pure adventure bikes in the UK never see any time off-road anyway. The real strength in these types of bikes is how great they are on-road. They're excellent commuters, excellent tourers, and that's what this does very well as well. It feels great on the road. That's where it excels. The DTX 360 weighs in at 194 kilos, and that's one of the reasons why I said it's kind of a great entry-level Maxi scooter. So it weighs kind of the same as what you might expect from a middleweight motorcycle. And that's where I'm coming from. This is kind of the first Maxi scooter experience I've really had. I've ridden a lot of low capacity scooters, but usually I'm riding traditional motorcycles rather than a Maxi, and I've really enjoyed it. So the lighter weight means that it's very easy to maneuver as well as being very agile on the road. Some of the bigger Maxis, for example, the Kymco's bigger brother, the AK550, that one weighs in at 226 kilos and it's much longer as well. So when it comes to manual handling, this is very easy to move around. You've got the nice handle on the back here. It's not too long, so it's easy to maneuver. Again, I feel like it's a great first experience on a Maxi bike. I've enjoyed it a lot. It's got an 800mm seat height, and this lovely comfy seat is quite accessible in that case. However, because it's so wide, you'll find that if you're sitting at the back here where this little back support is, I'm 5'10" and I'm struggling on tiptoes, but I found that if you scoot forwards a little bit, because the seat kind of tapers off, it's a lot more narrow here, I could flat foot it very easily from that position. So it's nice and easy to manage at low speeds once you get the hang of that. And where it really shines is in its comfort. I'm kind of coming from a traditional motorcycle background, so I've been riding a lot of naked bikes lately. This for me is the most comfortable thing I've ever ridden. It honestly feels like you're sitting in an armchair. We've got so much wind protection up front here. It's just incredibly comfortable and an absolute pleasure to ride. I can definitely see why you might want to think about moving across to one of these, especially when you're commuting. With its twist and go nature, the super comfy seat, the excellent wind protection, your commute to work is going to be an absolute pleasure. Oh, I didn't see you there. Just a quick word about Lexham Insurance, who power BikeMatters. If you're based in the UK, looking for some two-wheeled motorcycle or scooter insurance, you could just click on the link appearing now on screen, save up to £50 on your insurance. That way, we get to keep making content, you save some money, everyone's a winner. I've got a 12.5 litre fuel tank. Now, I would have liked it to have been a little bit larger. 12.5 litres is fine for a Maxi scooter. The only reason I say it would have been nice to have it slightly larger is because this is so comfy and it cruises so well. You could have used this as a little entry-level tourer as well, but I feel like the 12.5 just kind of pushes it more into commuter territory. That's where it's really going to excel. When it comes to fuel economy, it's pretty decent. You're going to go about 60 to 65 mpg. At the time of recording, we got a full tank for just 17 quid, and you probably get about 180 miles on that tank. So it's not bad at all, especially for, again, how great it is on the road. So with a 5.5 grand purchase price, it's a pretty economical option. When it comes to features, we do have a few on the DTX 360 here. Perhaps most impressively for a 5.5 grand bike, it has switchable traction control, which is pretty good. I spent most of my time on smooth roads, so I didn't really need it, but the fact that it's there and the fact that you can choose whether you want it engaged or not is a pretty good feature. We've got ABS as standard, we've got LED lighting. There is a USB port, but it's positioned right in the middle of the bars here, which is a little bit awkward, but it's there. You can just lift this cap up. There it is. We've got a glove compartment that can fit a mobile phone in it. And we've got a decent amount of under-seat storage. Again, if you're coming from a motorcycle to try out one of these, that is definitely another plus there. The fact that you can fit at least one full-size large helmet in there. We couldn't quite fit a second one in, but I reckon you could get a second open-faced helmet in there, no problem. Either way, it's a decent amount of storage space. It also has keyless ignition, and this is one of the better keyless ignition systems that I've used. Sometimes when you get some of the lower budget ones, you kind of have to bring your fob out, hold it up, get it to work, at which point kind of defeats the object, right? You could just put a key in there. But this works as intended. You can just have the key in your pocket, even in the glove box, as long as it's nearby, it will activate. So what you do, just hold the ignition switch here and it will give you a little beep and come to life. And then we've got a dial on the front here, so you can open the fuel tank, you can switch it on, you can put the steering lock on, etc. All works excellently. It's a pretty good ignition system. We've got a full color digital dash. The speedo is nice and large, which is the way I like it. I want to be able to just glance down and see all the information I need. We've got a nice large fuel gauge as well. There's trip meters, all the basics. There's a little light up button which shows you when the TCS is engaged or not, and you can engage it with this little button on the side. When it comes to the switch gear, it all feels very polished, very high quality, and everything is positioned well as well. It's all very intuitive. You don't really have to concentrate much. It's all there at the end of your fingertip, which is nice. One last thing I'll say about the dash, if you're looking at the footage on screen, it appears as though it's flickering, but it's actually just an issue with the GoPro. The GoPro frame rate seems to struggle to pick this up, but hopefully the close-up camera will show you how it actually looks. And while riding, I was very pleased with it. It's clear, there's no glare or anything like that. You can always read it, and it's a pretty good dash. I talked about the economy of this bike earlier. The initial starting price, brand new, is £5,559. So it's actually a pretty good buy, I think, for the amount this bike can do, how comfy it is, how easy to ride, the economy, etc. The only real rival, I think, is going to be Honda's ADV. Now, that's also a scooter with a bit of a larger engine. You know, you need to be A2 to ride it. And it's also got that kind of adventure styling. Now, I feel the DTX 360 is definitely more of a traditional maxi scooter than the ADV is. The ADV feels more like a true crossover between a motorcycle and a scooter because of the riding position, because of the way it's set up. Now, this is my first maxi scooter experience. I'm more focused on motorcycles usually, but our resident maxi scooter connoisseur Brett has taken this out for a test ride, and he's also done a full review on the Honda ADV, which you can check on the channel, by the way, if you're curious. And he basically says the same as me. It just feels a little bit different. The ADV feels more like a crossover with a motorcycle. This feels more like a traditional maxi scooter. The rest is just going to be in the looks. Do you like the styling of the ADV? Do you like the styling of the DTX? One thing I will say, it's got a slightly smaller screen here on the DTX. So although for me, it was incredibly comfortable coming from motorcycles with the amount of wind protection, it doesn't have quite the same level of comfort and protection as something like the ADV does, which has a larger screen, which is also adjustable. Now, there's 200 quid in it, so really just take your pick, whichever one you want to go for. Kymco is perhaps a lesser known brand, but it's very high quality. This is definitely a scooter that can compete with the big boys and hold its own in that regard. So overall, I've been quite impressed with the DTX 360. Now, Kymco might not be a name that you're familiar with, but I can tell you it's every bit as premium and well built as some of the big boys out there. Again, I've been impressed on every level. I feel like where the true strength of this bike is in its commuting ability. It's so effortless to ride. It's a twist and go. You just pull the throttle. So if, like me, you want to come across from a motorcycle, you've got your A2 license or your full license, that is where I feel like some of the big selling points of this scooter are. It's not that large and unwieldy as some of the really big maxi scooters, so you can adapt to it very smoothly and very seamlessly. It's incredibly agile. I was expecting it to be a little bit unwieldy, but that's not the case at all. It turns corners very nicely. It's nippy, it's zippy. It's a great little bike. You could get up for morning for work on one of these, sitting in your armchair, twisting the throttle. It's effortless, it practically rides itself, incredibly comfortable. That's where its true strength is. I think this would make an excellent commuter and well worth a look if you haven't considered a maxi scooter before. So what do you guys think of the Kymco DTX 360? I'd love to know. Leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think of the bike. What do you guys think about maxi scooters in general? Would you be interested in trying one? Are you a maxi scooter veteran? We always read all the comments down below, so keep them coming. If you found this video at all helpful or entertaining, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. I've got plenty more videos on the channel. Feel free to subscribe, ring the bell, you won't miss another video. I'll see you in the next one. Yeah!